If we keep accepting each failure as an indicator of our self-value or of our progress, then our life does become really, really difficult. And that's how I felt many years ago until very recently. I would internalize these failures as a reflection of me, of my work, or of my professionalism. That couldn't have been further from truth. Hi, my name is Gulsum Kushaeva. I'm an assistant professor in Astana after studying abroad in the UK and America. Now I run projects in microfluidics for organ and chip applications. A couple weeks ago, my manuscript submitted to a high impact factor journal was rejected without a peer review. Rejection process are part of our life in academia, especially. If you think of research itself, research is full of rejections and failures. The experiments do not work from the start. Sometimes you have to repeat certain things many times to figure out what is wrong, and then eventually they work out. So this manuscript that I submitted was submitted to a high impact factor journal, a review paper. After 3-4 weeks of waiting, I suddenly get an email that it was not even peer reviewed. It was just rejected by the editor. The smaller this perspective that you have in front of you, the bigger you perceive each failure and rejection. For example, when I was an undergrad or master's student, I remember I had an internship. This part-time job was only for my financial benefit. I did not enjoy it. It was far from where I lived. It was not intellectually stimulating at all. It was just hands-on repetitive work. And one time I wanted to attend a job fair on campus. I was letting my boss know that I wouldn't be able to come that day because of the job fair. And needless to say, the boss was very frustrated. But 2 weeks after this case, he invited me to his office and kindly let me know that I was fired and I wasn't going to stay there for summer. At the time, I didn't know about the dynamics that searching for another job may hurt the feeling of your boss or of your managers. But I remember how I reacted to it, though. I reacted it as if it was my failure, that I didn't do a proper job. I did not think of the politics behind it. I just thought that I'm not valued. That's something, a reflection of me as a person. And I cried about it a lot, and it took me some time. I was hurt. So think of it as if you're focused on a narrow circle, then the small particle of dust that's in front of this light will give a bigger shadow and will close off the bigger view. But if your perspective is much, much bigger, then the same particle or dust will shadow just a small view out of the whole picture, and it will not affect your emotional state as much. The same thing if you're going to airport, you have plenty of time. You're going maybe 2 or 3 hours before the boarding time, and you see some car that cuts you off, you probably would have some negative reaction to it. However, if you're short in time, you're almost missing your flight, you have 30 minutes before boarding to make it to the airport, and you're really focused at the road, then this car that cuts you off will not affect you at all. You just let it go. So the same thing applies to our academic life. If we have just small perspective at where we're going, then anything, small conflict at work or somebody saying something about you or these kind of small rejections may affect your mood and well-being. That brings me to another point. Sometimes we're our own main number one critic. Even when other people are not critiquing us, there is always us who are critiquing ourselves. Why the failure hits so bad is that we feel shame. After being successful, getting A's, especially all the time, and whether it's in high school, in university, or achieving in your professional life, some point, if you're on this wave of success and something happens that puts you in a dip, it's harder to get back up to your default because your default was high always. But if you get this dip very, very often, you may feel like that's how your default is. So the important balance is to kind of step away from the picture and seeing the picture from third parties' eyes, not internalizing the failure or rejection, because the shame is the worst and we have to let it go. There's a behavioral scientist, Chase Hughes, who says that we have to be unapologetically forgiving of ourselves because shame is what keeps us from everything good in our life. So if we be always, always forgiving of ourselves without ruminating, that will lead us to being open to life and to being open to failures and rejections and seeing it as just part of our life. So whatever we get, good or bad, try not to comment on it. Try not to say this is good or this is bad, but try accepting it as it is and without giving any kind of tint or color to the event that just happened. That's something that I'm learning as well right now. And it's actually really helpful in just being happier every day. So that's all that I had to say today, guys. I hope that you will see failures and rejections as normal. You will not see it as negative thing that will affect you in the future. That's it for now. And if you want to learn more about publication process, then you can watch this video.